What's up YouTube, the Soldier Barber Life here. So in this video I'm going to be giving you guys a tutorial on a medium skin drop fade, so let's get into it. So we're going to start this off by using our Gamma Skin balding clipper, and we are going to go ahead and set in our first bald guideline. When you set this bald guideline in, the way that I prefer to do it is using a hard guideline, but you want to make sure when you're setting in this guideline that you are paying attention to your pressure. Do not press hard on the skin when you are setting in this bald guideline, because that'll make it a harsher guideline, which will make it harder for you to actually remove it. I'm just doing light taps, and I'm going around and setting this guideline in, being very neat and meticulous with how I'm setting this in. And in the back I'm going ahead and dropping it. And when you're doing a drop fade, you want to make sure you drop it below the occipital bone, and then go ahead and connect it on both sides. So the next step that we're going to do is flip that clipper over, and we're going to take all that hair that is below that guideline that we set. And this is why I definitely prefer using a balding clipper over a trimmer. It's a bigger tool. It has the power, and the blade gets low enough to where it gets just as low as a trimmer would, and it just knocks all that out. I enjoy having a dedicated tool because I do a lot of skin fades, so I do use the Gamma Skin on all my skin fades, and this thing works great for me. So the next step that I'm going to do is grab my Stylecraft Instinct clipper with a number 2 guard on it, and I am going to go ahead and debulk this whole area here and set in a guideline for this. And the reason why you do this debulking is it just helps you debulk and get a lot of that excess hair out of the way, so you can kind of see the guidelines that you're going to make before that. So one technique that you'll see me using is I use my comb, and I'll help feed some of that hair into that comb and just knocking out all this bulk on the side. This client was previously, his hairstyle that he had was a taper, so now he wants to go to a medium skin fade. So there is a lot of bulk around the parietal ridge area, so I'm just going in a flick out motion. And a flick out motion is when you are like making a C, so you aren't really digging in, you're going in and you're flicking back out towards you, and that's what you're seeing. And this guideline doesn't have to be perfect, because later on we are going to go behind it and we are going to clean this up more. So I'm just going in and just debulking all this area around here so I can set in my other guidelines better. So the next step that I'm going to be doing is using my Stylecraft Instinct clippers, and I'm going to go ahead and set in my next guideline. And this guideline will be with the lever all the way open, and I'm going to make about a 1-inch guideline all the way around. And then how I go about that is, after I make my 1-inch guideline, I close the lever all the way and I attack the bottom of that guideline, and then I close my lever halfway and I blend those two guidelines into each other. So the next step that I did was I used my number 1 guard and I set in my next guideline above that. And as you can see in the fade, that number 1 guard didn't blend perfectly into that lever open. So what I do is I get my half guard, and I use my half guard as a blending guard, and I'll do lever play where I'm opening and closing that lever just to get those two guards to blend into each other better. So that's mainly what I use my half guard for, is just for detailing and blending from the lever open into the 1 guard. And that's what you'll see me here. And a lot of times I'll use sometimes the corner of my blades, depending on the area that I see. If I see dark spots, I'll use the corner of my blade. If it's all hair that still needs to be blended, then I'll use the entire blade. But like I say, using a lot of lever play, looking at it, and then seeing what needs to happen in order to blend those two guidelines together. So the next step that I do is I grab my 1.5 guard with the lever all the way open, and I go ahead and set in this next guideline. And this guideline that I'm setting in is transitioning that number 1 guard up into the number 2. The number 2 is the highest guard that I'll use. So this is just blending that in, and I use the same techniques where I go with the lever all the way open and I go all the way around, and then I close that lever all the way and attack the bottom of that guideline, and then I close that lever halfway to blend those two into each other. The next step I'm going to do is grab my 2 guard, and I'm going back in and creating that next guideline. Now I already kind of had somewhat of a guideline there for the when I was debulking, but this one is going to be a lot more neater and meticulous because this is the highest guard that I'm going to use that transitions the fade at the bottom up into all the bulk area on the top. The next step that I do is detail work. So I will grab any of the previous guards that I previously used, and if I see any dark areas or any areas that I feel like needs to be blended a little bit more, then I'll go back in with some of those smaller guards just to blend these areas into each other to make sure that this is a good transition and that the fade is as blended as possible. In the next step, I grab my thinning shears and I do shear over comb, and this just helps transition that number 2 guard up into the bulk that I have on the top. And I will go through there and also use point cutting as well. Just use these different methods just to give a better gradients to debulk some of that area and give a better transition going from the areas that I faded up into the bulk on the top. Now that I'm done with the fade, I'm going to start working on the hairline. So I use my duck clips and set those in so I can start knocking down some of the hair on this hairline and prepping it to line it up. So the next step that I do is my hot towel service. So this has 2 purposes. One, it actually provides a luxury service for my clients, but it does help me also clean the hairline, remove any oils, dirt, or anything like that that may be on the hairline. After I do the hot towel, I do clean it with alcohol, but when I provide this hot towel service, I use my Babyliss Vibe FX, and I give them a facial massage as well. So that 2-part thing, like I say, it gives them a luxury service, but it also does prep the skin, so I will be able to provide them with a clean hairline. So another luxury service that I provide to my clients is I do gold eye mask on them, and these help reduce dark circles and puffiness. But this just goes along with everything that I provide in these luxury services to my clients. Now it's time to get into this lineup. One thing that I do before I do the hairline part of the prep is I use a holding spray, and that just locks in the hair, so when I go in and I line it up, it'll keep everything in place. And how I do my hairlines is I start in the middle and I work my way to the corners. So that's what you'll see here. On my client's left side, you'll see that this area is a little bit thinner, so I'm just trying to push it back enough to where it's not really pushing it back too much, but it's also making it even and symmetrical. So when I'm doing that, it's just making light taps and then looking back at it, readjusting it, see what I need to do. And for his hairline, this is all like overhang and bangs, so like I can use that to my advantage and make that as symmetrical as I need to. So the next step that I do is I'm going to be adding enhancements to the hairline, and I'm using my air compressor and my Tomb 45 no drip enhancement and my Sean Cuts Hair enhancement card. And I'm not trying to go too crazy with it, but just trying to darken up this hairline, especially on the left side where it's a little bit more thinner, but just following that natural line that I set in with my trimmers and just following that all the way over. So now we are about to get into the razor work part of this, and I'm using my Tomb 45 triple cartridge razor with the maximum exposure blade. And when you are doing razor work, you want to stretch the skin, pull it in the opposite direction that you are using your razor in. So you'll see me stretch the skin to create tension on the skin so you don't nick your clients. And then you just follow that line that you already made, and just follow that all the way around to give it the sharpest lineup that you can. And in my final step, I'm going to be styling my client's hair. So I use my water bottle and I just saturate the hair, and then I'm going to be using a foam mousse, and then applying that in there, and that's really just going to help his hair curl up and give it that desired curl pattern that he is looking for. And then I follow that up with my diffuser, and that just really makes the curls pop on his head even more. So after I finish with the cut, I take the neck strip off and open up the cape, and I grab my trimmers and I will clean up all the hairs on the back of the neck. And that just is one of those things that I notice that surprisingly some people don't do, but this is the extra attention to detail things that you do that can really set you apart from other barbers. It's just attention to detail, just everything that you do, just the little things that you do that may set you apart or make you different from others. And one of the most important things you can do after you finish a cut is to clean your client off. There shouldn't be any hairs left over on them. You have to look at a haircut like it is a finished painting canvas, and you want it to be as presentable as possible. So this is the finished cut. My client asked for a medium skin drop fade with the curls on the top, so we gave him that, and he was really happy with the results. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Like I say, I'm getting a lot more active on my channel. I'm dropping a whole lot more videos. If you guys can, drop a like on this video, drop a comment, and thank you guys for watching. But before we leave, you knew we couldn't end this without hitting them with some of that Spice Ball special.